Today we're talking about one of the major affecting factors of housing affordability. We're talking about house prices.
I keep it real, I keep it real, I keep it real, just keep it real.
Hey guys, it's Sam Hartman, keeping it real estate here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And as always, I am here to help bring some context and clarity to the headlines out there in the real estate world so that you as consumers can make great, confident real estate decisions for you and your family. And so today we're talking about an extremely important factor, a factor that is 1/3 of the puzzle of pricing and affordability, which is, obviously pricing, mortgage rates, and incomes all kind of affect housing affordability. So today we're talking about pricing. And when we talk about pricing, we really start with two key factors that put pressure on pricing, either positively or negatively. Either prices will be increasing because of these two factors or decreasing because of these two factors. And if you've ever taken a high school or college economics class, you know what these two factors are. They're very simple. It is supply, the supply of homes and the availability of homes for sale, and it is demand, the number of buyers that are able and capable to buy those homes. So I want to start with these two things, look at these two factors and kind of where we're at in today's market as it pertains to supply and demand. So supply is actually in an interesting situation because not many homes are hitting the market. We've actually seen a 25% reduction in new listings hitting the market. However, our inventory of homes has doubled from 0.5 months supply of homes in Allen County to 1 month supply of homes in Allen County. So they have doubled. So the supply of homes is increasing, which tells me there's more homes available for sale for buyers. So very quick snapshot of that tells you, well, if inventory is increasing, prices must be decreasing because there's more options. But I do want to caveat that with saying we consider a balanced real estate market to be 6 months of homes available for sale. And right now we're only at 1 month supply of homes available for sale. So we're extremely still on the low end of that inventory supply chain. It still would be considered a seller's market. But compared to last year at this time, the market does feel very different. It feels like to buyers that they have more options available for sale. It feels like to buyers that they have more negotiating power for sale. And the numbers show that as well. If we look at the percentage of list price received in January, it's actually dropped 2.3% from 98.9% of list price last year to now 96.6%. So that does tell me buyers out there in the month of January had more negotiating power, were able to maybe get a little bit of a price reduction because of the current state of the real estate market. Now let's talk about demand. What is affecting buyer demand right now? And the biggest factor here is mortgage rates. As mortgage rates increase, it affects buyer demand. So when we're in between the 5% to 6% range, we actually see some pretty strong buyer demand. We actually saw this a few weeks ago. Interest rates dropped down below 6% for 1 day. For 1 day, they were 5.99%. And we saw mortgage applications spike strongly on this day. But that was very short-lived. Ever since then, we've been back into the 6%, even into the low 7%. And we see as we hit above 7%, that buyer demand really starts to weaken because that buyer affordability is being affected as well. So we are seeing basically pressure on inventory remaining extremely low, and we're also seeing pressure on demand. As interest rates stay high, buyer demand is remaining low as well. So right now with these two factors, we're seeing inventory low and demand low. So we're not seeing any one major swing that tells me prices are going to swing one way or the other. We're actually kind of seeing a balancing of these two things where inventory is staying low and buyer demand is staying low. So some unique, interesting market dynamics here that are affecting buyers' demand and supply of homes for sale. So let's jump into a quote from Rick Sharga, who's the Executive Vice President of Market Intelligence at Adam Data. And Rick says we're estimating about a 5% drop nationally in home prices. Some markets, believe it or not, will probably see prices continue to increase. So Rick with Adam Data is saying we could see 5% decrease in prices this year. And I don't disagree with him, because there are some markets across the US during the COVID years that saw just a blow up in price appreciation, in market migration, where they were getting a ton of new residents. And now they might be seeing some of that migration kind of matriculate away from them, as well as kind of some more normalcy in the work environment and the living environment settles down from the COVID times, and we get back into some normal times. Now, I always say real estate is hyper local. And so what I want to point out here, as we have this quote from Rick saying that we could see a 5% reduction in home values this year, I want to look at Fort Wayne, Indiana's typical market response as it compares to the nation. And so if we look back to the housing crisis of 2008, we saw a 5-year price depreciation across the United States that averaged over 20% over that 5-year period. So the national average during the market crash of 2008 was about 20% price depreciation over a 5-year period. Now let's look at Allen County, Fort Wayne, Indiana's market during that same 5-year time frame. We saw a 5% depreciation in that same time frame. And so this is one of the things I love about our local real estate market, is that in Fort Wayne, Indiana, we tend to have a very conservative response to market indicators and market swings. So when things swing down, Fort Wayne is not hit quite as hard as other parts of the market. When things swing highly and positively, we tend to also be conservative with that. Let's look at these last recent years where we saw huge price appreciation. In 2021, we saw 16% appreciation. But again, that national average was well over 20% that they saw in 2021. So even though we had great appreciation in Allen County, we still were conservative as it pertains to the nation as a whole. And so even with a quote like this from Rick, I still expect Allen County and Fort Wayne's market response to be very conservative. I would not be surprised if Allen County stayed pretty flat with price appreciation, or even a small percentage appreciation for the year of 2023. But that's just talking about a 1-year snapshot here, and we have a ton of kind of volatility in our market right now due to mortgage rates, due to inflation, due to as recently as bank closures. So a lot of kind of uncertainty in the market right now that is kind of causing all of this uncertainty here in the short term in the year of 2023. But let's look ahead. Let's look 5 years out, because anytime I'm helping a customer buy a home, I want them to plan to be in that home for at least a 5-year period. That lets you ride the waves of the highs and lows of real estate. It lets you build equity in your home so that when you go to sell it, you have a nice little built up equity savings nest egg to now go purchase your next home, to put more money down on your next home, and to upsize your life in the way that you hope to achieve. And so if we look at the estimated price performance over these next 5 years from 2023 to 2027, so now this graph looking at these upcoming 5 years is actually from the Home Price Expectation Survey, which surveys over 100 economists and real estate experts to get their projections and their forecasts on what they think is going to happen in the real estate market. And so this is a little bit more conservative for the year of 2023. They see about a 1.61 price reduction in 2023. But as you can see, as we build out towards 2027, they are optimistic that price appreciation rebounds quickly, that prices start to appreciate again. And one of the reasons we expect that is because we expect mortgage rates to come back down and help that affordability level. So when that affordability level reaches a better point with mortgage rates, that buyer demand is going to come back to the market. And when that demand comes back to the market, that puts upward pressure on pricing with inventory still remaining low. So that is why over the next 5 years, it's pretty optimistic that price appreciation is still going to be strong and steady. Now you can see 2024, 1.9%, pretty conservative. 2025, 3.57, 26, 4.25, 27, 4.44. Now on average in the United States, we average about 3.8% appreciation per year. In Fort Wayne, Indiana, that average over the last 40-year period is about 3.1%. So again, this just further paints the picture that Fort Wayne, Indiana and Allen County tends to have a little bit more of a conservative response to real estate market swings. I personally think it's a great thing. It means your investment in your asset, in your real estate, in your home that you live in is more secure. It's not as risky, it's not as mood swingy as maybe some of these coastal or vacation markets might be in the United States. But those are just a few of the projections that we have out there. Let's widen our scope. Let's look at over 7 different expert projections across the board here for 2023. And so from Realtor.com projecting an increase in home values of as much as 5.4%, down to Fannie Mae projecting as much as a 4.2% reduction in home values, and anything in between. So we have about a 10-point spread there on the positive side and the negative side, with all of these 7 averaging to about a 0.1 price reduction. So all things considered, if we average these expert projections for 2023, they're expecting the market to stay pretty flat. And I think this is all in all not a bad thing. There's a lot of difficulty with mortgage rates and affordability, so prices are expected to stay pretty flat. But what I will say to buyers out there in the market, if you can afford a mortgage with the higher interest rate, you have an opportunity in today's market to have more options of available homes for sale, and even potentially more negotiating power on the seller's concessions to buy that home. So if you can afford the payment at a higher interest rate, I encourage you to continue pursuing home ownership, because when those interest rates come down in the next year or two, you're going to be able to refinance the home, you're going to be able to get a lower mortgage payment, and you're going to be in an even better affordability spot at that time. But in the next couple of years, when those mortgage rates come down and you didn't buy the home today, guess what's going to happen? The demand is going to increase, and that's going to put pressure on prices, which could increase as well, putting you in a less desirable situation for negotiating with sellers. So is it the right time to buy a home? I can't answer that question for you. You need to look at your own personal finances, but I think there is opportunity today for buyers in the real estate market. And so if you have questions about that, reach out to me. I'd love to continue the conversation further with you. And so let's finish with a quote from Odetta Kushi, Deputy Chief Economist with First America. And he says, "The green shoots of spring home buying are beginning to sprout, but the recent uptick in mortgage rates may have clouded that outlook." And so I want to go back to this graph about how mortgage rates affect the buyer demand. As they approach 7%, buyer demand really weakens above 7% interest rates. In between 6.5% and 7%, it is pretty limited, but as the interest rates come back down below 6.5%, get below 6%, that demand is much stronger. So springtime tends to be a much stronger buying period for the real estate market, but because there is pressure right now on mortgage rates, we're seeing that buyer demand kind of stay pretty weak. And so that is affecting the overall spring market, the overall demand today in the spring market, and what sellers might be able to expect as far as getting their home listed on the market this spring, and the demand that may or may not be there for their home in this market right now too. So that's it for me today, guys. I know that's a lot of information to take in. Everybody is gonna have different personal scenarios and how that affects whether it's a good time for them to buy or sell a home right now in today's market. I hope this information was helpful, but most importantly, if you have questions, reach out in the comments, reach out to me directly. My information is out there and available to you. I want to have these conversations to make sure that you're the most informed consumer that you can be and that you make great real estate decisions for you and your family. So make sure you let me know if you have questions, you reach out to take the next steps and to further your steps down the process towards home ownership. I'm here to help and I'm happy to help. Thanks for sticking with me today, guys, and remember, keep it real estate out there.